Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Mahaprabhu, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Let's start with Mangalacharan. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Bol. To all the devotees who led the chanting today, we will continue with our prayer of this week, which is glorification of Shri Prahlad Maharaj through the prayers of Shri Govindadas Kaviraj Goswami. This is a wonderful prayer, Bhajahure Mana, which symbolizes the instructions of Shri Prahlad Maharaj of the Navada Bhakti, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. So I posted the link in the chat. Anybody would like to try reciting this prayer today?
I want to try, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Yes, Arti Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Bhajahure mana Shri Nanda Nandana Apaya Charanhara Vindare Bhajahure mana Shri Nanda Nandana Apaya Charanhara Vindare दुर्लभ मानव जन्म सत्संगे दुर्लभ मानव जन्म सत्संगे तार हो रे भव सिंधुरे शीता आतप बात भरीसन ए दिन जामिनी जागिरे विफल से विनु कृपण धुर्जन चपल सुखल भलागिरे ए धन यौवन पुत्र परिजन Prabhuji, can you please scroll down? ए धन यौवन पुत्र परिजन इथे किया छे परती तीरे ए धन यौवन पुत्र परिजन इथे किया छे परती तीरे कमल ढल जल जीवन धल मल कमल ढल जल जीवन धल मल भजहुरे हरिपद नीति रे श्रवण कीर्तन स्मरण वंदन पाद सेवन दास रे श्रवण कीर्तन स्मरण वंदन पाद सेव दास रे पूजन सखी जन आत्मनिवेदन गोविंद दास अभिलाष रे भजहुरे मन श्री नंद नंदन अभय चरण विंद रे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ati Mataji. Yes, anybody would like to read the translation for this prayer?
I can go ahead.
Yes, Nalin Prabhu. Yeah.
Oh mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless, having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this.
Sorry, we lost your audio, Nalin Prabhu. You're on mute.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, now you are. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. I was reading the second line. Or did I miss?
I think the first
Okay.
having obtained this
Okay.
number.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yeah. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of saintly persons. Both in the day and at night, I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I have uselessly served weak and miserly man. What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, usefulness, sons and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari. It is the desire and great longing of Govinda Dasa to engage himself in the nine processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend and completely offering the Lord one's very self. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Govindas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Yes. It's also wonderful how this prayer also talks about Abhay Charana Aravinda, which is also the name of our beloved Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Abhay Charana Aravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So he's also fearless, and the devotees of the Lord are fearless, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Prabhupada, right? And that comes from the mercy of the Guru Parampara, from the mercy of the Lord. And yeah, these prayers are wonderful because they help us remember the instructions of Shri Prahlad Maharaj, especially in this month of Narsimha Chaturdashi. Okay, so we'll continue with reading of our book Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit. Let's go back to chapter 19. So yesterday we are currently reading from this chapter 19, planting the seed. So Prabhupada planted or broke the ground in Bawari and in New York. He's now slowly starting to plant the seed of bhakti in the Lower East Side, 2nd Avenue, 26 2nd Avenue, Matchless Gifts, and New York City. We see how the initial devotees who had helped Prabhupada slowly are starting to take the back seat now because they feel like, it's the kirtans have changed, and then the environment has changed, and there are more new devotees coming in now and helping him. So again, we saw a lot of minds play happening yesterday, right? So that is why it is very, very important that we follow in these 9 Navada Bhakti processes that have been given to us, that we sincerely follow the rules and regulations given by Srila Prabhupada, that we should follow the 4 regulative principles, we should chant the holy names, chant every morning, especially in Brahma Muhurta, like we try to do, we are attempting to do, because that is very, very important too. If we just do one thing and neglect the other, then there are chances that we will be tricked by our mind. So, like I was giving the example, ultimately everything is Leela of the Lord. And only if we chant the holy names, then we are able to control the mind. The mind comes in our control. And eventually, it is all mind's play. Everything that happens around us, with us, by us, everything is mind's play. And a controlled mind, by the process of chanting the holy names, is our best friend. And then we'll be able to experience the bliss, the joy of Krishna consciousness. So we'll see. There are new devotees who have been helping him, who have been coming now. So yesterday we saw these three kids, Bruce, Chuck, and I think the other one was Steve, if I'm not wrong. So I will continue from here. Chuck. I entered the storefront, and sitting on a grass mat on the hard floor was a person who seemed at first to be neither male nor female. But when he looked at me, I couldn't even look him straight in the eyes. They were so brilliant and glistening. His skin was golden with rosy cheeks, and he had large ears that framed his face. He had 3 strands of beads, one which was at his neck, one a little longer, and the other down on his chest. He had a long forehead, which rose above his shining eyes, and there were many furrows in his brow. His arms were slender and long. His mouth was rich and full, and very dark and red and smiling, and his teeth were brighter than his eyes. He sat in a cross legged position that I had never seen before in any yoga book and had never seen any yogi perform. It was a sitting posture, but his right foot was crossed over the thigh and brought back beside his left hip, and one knee rested on the floor on the other directly in front of him. His every expression and gesture was different from those of any other personalities I had ever seen. I sensed that they had meanings that I did not know, from a culture and a mood that were completely beyond this world. There was a mole on his side and a peculiar callus on his ankle, a round callus similar to what a karate expert develops on his knuckle. He was dressed in unhemmed cloth, dyed saffron. Everything about him was exotic, and his whole effulgence made him seem to be not even sitting in the room, but projected from some other place. He was so brilliant in color that it was like a technicolor movie. And yet he was right there. I heard him speaking. He was sitting right there before me. Yet it seemed that if I reached out to touch him, he wouldn't be there. At the same time, seeing him was not an abstract or subtle experience, but a most intense presence. After their first visit to the storefront, Chuck, Steve, and Bruce each got an opportunity to see the Swami upstairs in his apartment. Steve. I was on my lunch hour and had to be back in the office very soon. I was dressed in a summer business suit, and I had planned it so that I had just enough time to go to the storefront and buy some books, then go to lunch and return to work. At the storefront, one of the Swami's followers said that I could go up and see the Swami. I went upstairs to his apartment and found him at a sitting place with a few boys. I must have interrupted what he was saying, but I asked him if I could purchase the 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the devotees produced the books from the closet opposite Prabhupada's seat. I handled the books. They were a very special color, not usually seen in America, a reddish natural earth like a brick, and I asked him how much they cost. $6 each, he said. I took $20 out of my wallet and gave it to him. He seemed the only one to ask about the price of the books or give the money to, because none of the others came forward to represent him. They were just sitting back and listening to him speak. These books are commentaries on the scriptures? I asked, trying to show that I knew something about books. Swamiji said, yes, they were his commentaries. Sitting, smiling at ease, Swamiji was very attractive. He seemed very strong and healthy. When he smiled, all his teeth were beautiful, and his nostrils flared aristocratically. His face was full and powerful. He was wearing an Indian cloth robe, and as he sat cross legged, his smooth skinned legs were partly exposed. He wore no shirt, but the upper part of his body was wrapped with an Indian cloth shawl. His limbs were quite slender, but he had a protruding belly. When I saw that Swamiji was having to personally handle the sale of the books, I did not want to bother him. I quickly asked him to please keep the change from my $20. I took the 3 volumes without any bag or wrapping and was standing preparing to leave when Swamiji said, sit down, and gestured that I should sit opposite him like the others. He had said, sit down, in a different tone of voice. It was a heavy tone and indicated that now the sale of the books was completed and I should sit with the others and listen to him speak. He was offering me an important invitation to become like one of the others, who I knew spent many hours with him during the day when I was usually at my job and not able to come. I envied their leisure in being able to learn so much from him and sit and talk intimately with him. By ending the sales transaction and asking me to sit, he assumed that I was in need of listening to him and that I had nothing better in the world to do than to stop everything else and hear him. But I was expected back at the office. I didn't want to argue, but I couldn't possibly stay. I'm sorry, I have to go, I said definitely. I'm only on my lunch hour. As I said this, I had already started to move for the door, and Swamiji responded by suddenly breaking into a wide smile and looking very charming and very happy. He seemed to appreciate that I was a working man, a young man on the go. I had not come by simply because I was unemployed and had nowhere to go and nothing to do. Approving of my energetic demeanor, he allowed me to take my leave. Chuck. One of the devotees in the storefront invited me upstairs to see the Swami in private. I was led out of the storefront into a hallway and suddenly into a beautiful little garden with a picnic table, a bird bath, a birdhouse, and flower beds. After we passed through the garden, we came to a middle class apartment building. We walked up the stairs and entered an apartment which was absolutely bare of any furniture, just white walls and a parquet floor. He led me through the front room and into another room, and there was the Swami, sitting in that same majestic spiritual presence on a thin cotton mat, which was covered by a cloth with little elephants printed on it, and leaning back on a pillow which stood against the wall. One night, Bruce walked home with Wally, and he told Wally about his interest in going to India and becoming a professor of Oriental literature. Why go to India? Wally asked. India has come here. Swamiji is teaching us these authentic things. Why go to India? Bruce thought Wally made sense, so he resolved to give up his long cherished idea of going to India, at least as long as he could go on visiting the Swami. Bruce. I decided to go and speak personally to Swamiji. So I went to the storefront. I found out that he lived in an apartment in the rear building. A boy told me the number and said I could just go and speak with the Swami. He said, yes, just go. So I walked through the storefront and there was a little courtyard where some plants were growing. Usually in New York there is no courtyard, nothing green, but this was very attractive. And in that courtyard there was a boy typing at a picnic table, and he looked very spiritual and dedicated. I hurried upstairs and rang the bell for apartment number 2C. After a little while, the door opened and it was the Swami. Yes, he said. And I asked, I would like to speak with you. He opened the door wider and stepped back and said, yes, come. We went inside together into his sitting room and sat down facing each other. He sat behind his metal trunk desk on a very thin mat which was covered with a woolen blanket-like cover that had frazzled ends and elephants decorating it. He asked me my name and I told him it was Bruce. And then he remarked, in India, during the British period, there was one Lord Bruce. And he said something about Lord Bruce being a general and engaging in some campaigns. I felt that I had to talk to the Swami to tell him my story, and I actually found him interested to listen. It was very intimate, sitting with him in his apartment, and he was actually wanting to hear about me. While we were talking, he looked up past me, high up on the wall behind me, and he was talking about Lord Chaitanya. The way he looked up, he was obviously looking at some picture or something, but with an expression of deep love in his eyes. I turned around to see what made him look like that. Then I saw the picture in the brown frame, Lord Chaitanya dancing in Kirtana. Inevitably, meeting with Prabhupada meant a philosophical discussion. Chuck, I asked him, can you teach me Raja Yoga? Oh, he said, here is Bhagavad Gita. He handed me a copy of the Gita. Turn to the last verse of the 6th chapter, he said, and read. I read the translation out loud. And of all yogis, who is worshipping me with faith and devotion, I consider to be the best. I could not comprehend what faith and devotion meant. So I said, sometimes I'm getting some light in my forehead. That is hallucination, he said. So abruptly he said it. Although he did not strain his person, the words came at me so intensely that it completely shocked me. Raja means king. King, yoga, he said. But this is emperor yoga. I knew that he had attained such a high state not by using chemicals from a laboratory or by any Western speculative process. And this was certainly what I wanted. Are you giving classes? I asked. He said, yes. If you come at 6 in the morning, I'm giving classes on the Gita. And bring some flower or fruit for the deity. I looked into the adjoining room, which was bare with a wooden parquet floor, bare walls, and a tiny table. And on the table was a picture of 5 human like figures with their arms raised above their heads. Somehow, their arms and faces were not like any mortal that I had ever seen. I knew that the picture was looking at me. When I came out on the street in the front of the storefront, there were a few people standing around, and I said, I don't think I'm going to take LSD anymore. I said it loud to myself, but some other people heard me. Steve, I wanted to show my appreciation for spiritual India, so I presented to Swamiji that I had read the autobiography of Gandhi. It was glorious, I said. What is glorious about it? Swamiji challenged. When he asked this, there were others present in the room. Although I was a guest, he had no qualms about challenging me for having said something foolish. I searched through my remembrances of Gandhi's autobiography to answer his challenging question. What is glorious? I began to relate that one time Gandhi, as a child, although raised as a vegetarian, was induced by some of his friends to eat meat, and that night he felt that a lamb was howling in his belly. Swamiji dismissed this at once, saying, most of India is vegetarian. That is not glorious. I couldn't think of anything else glorious to say, and Swamiji said, his autobiography is called Experiments with Truth, but that is not the nature of truth. It is not found it is not to be found by someone's experimenting. Truth is always truth. Although it was a blow to my ego, being exposed and defeated by Swamiji seemed to be a gain for me. I wanted to bring before him many different things for his judgment, just to see what he had to say about them. I showed him the paperback edition of the Bhagavad Gita that I was reading and carrying in my back pocket. He perused the back cover. There was a reference to the eternal faith of the Hindus, and Swamiji began to take the phrase apart. He explained how the word Hindu was a misnomer and does not occur anywhere in the Sanskrit literature itself. He also explained that Hinduism and Hindu beliefs were not eternal. Bruce, after I talked about my desire for religious life, I began telling him about a conflict I had with one of my professors in English literature. He was a Freudian, so he would explain the characters in all the novels and so on in a Freudian context and with Freudian terminology. Everything was sexual. The mother for the son, this one for that one, and so on. But I would always see it in terms of religious essence. I would see it in terms of a religious impulse or some desire to understand God. I would write my papers in that context, and he would always say the religious can also be interpreted as Freudian. So I didn't go very well in the course. I was mentioning this to the Swami, and he said, your professor is correct. I was surprised. I'm going to an Indian Swami, and he is saying that the professor was correct, that everything is based on sex and not religion. This kind of pulled the rug out from under me when he said that. Then he qualified what he had said. He explained that in the material world, everyone is operating on the basis of sex. Everything that everyone is doing is being driven by the sex impulse. So he said, Freud is correct. Everything is on the basis of sex. Then he clarified what material life is and what spiritual life is. In spiritual life, there is a complete absence of sex desire. So this had a profound effect on me. He wasn't confirming my old sentimental ideas, but he was giving me new ideas. He was giving me his instructions, and I had to accept them. Talking to the Swami was very nice. I found him completely natural, and I found him to be very artistic. The way he held his head, the way he enunciated his words, very dignified, very gentlemanly. The boys found Swamiji not only philosophical, but personal also. Steve, a few nights later, I went to see the Swami and told him I was reading his book. One thing that had especially caught my attention was a section where the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva, was admitting that he was feeling despondent. Then his spiritual master Narada explained that his despondency had come because although he had written so many books, he had neglected to write in such a way as to fully glorify Krishna. After hearing this, Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. When I read this, I identified with the fact that Vyasadeva was a writer because I considered myself a writer also, and I knew that I was also despondent. This was very interesting about the author Vyasadeva. I said, he wrote so many books, but still he was not satisfied because he had not directly praised Krishna. Although I had very little understanding of Krishna consciousness, Swamiji opened his eyes very wide, surprised that I was speaking on such an elevated subject from the Srimad Bhagavatam. He seemed pleased. Chuck, I had come by in the afternoon and Swamiji had given me a plate of prasadam. So I was eating and a chili burned my mouth. Swamiji said, is it too hot? Yes, I said. So he brought me a tiny teacup with some milk and then he took some rice off my plate and took a piece of banana and crushed it all up together with his fingers and said, here, eat this. It will kill the action of the chilies. Bruce, there wasn't anything superficial about him, nor was he ever contrived, trying to make some impression. He was just completely himself. In the Swami's room, there was no furniture, so we sat on the floor. And I found this to be very attractive and simple. Everything was so authentic about him. Uptown at another Swami's place, We had sat on big stuffed living room chairs, and the place had been lavishly furnished. But here was the downtown Swami, wearing simple cloth robes. He had no business suit on. He wasn't covering up a business suit with these saffron robes, and he wasn't affected as the other Swami was. So I found myself asking him if I could be his student, and he said yes. I was very happy because he was so different from the other Swami. With the Uptown Swami, I was wanting to become a student because I wanted to get something from him. I wanted to get knowledge. It was selfishly motivated. But here, I was actually emotionally involved. I was feeling that I wanted to become the Swami's student. I actually wanted to give myself because I thought he was great, and what he was giving was pure and pristine and wonderful. It was a soothing balm for the horrible city life. Uptown, I had felt like a stranger. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Yes. Anybody would like to share any thoughts or reflections? I was just thinking how when Srila Prabhupada first met his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that posture of how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was sitting, and when Prabhupada saw him, that kindly, and that picture uh, uh, remained in his mind eternally, right? Or something similar we are seeing with these young devotees, and they're coming. They saw Prabhupada's physical uh, demeanor, physical appearance, posture, the way he was sitting, carrying himself, the way he was talking, everything struck them like as if this was somebody coming from a different world, right? Some of them said, yeah, he looked like Buddha. Some said when he looked at him in his eyes, it was almost like the time had stopped, right? It felt as if somebody was taking a picture of that particular moment. Um, but yeah, while all of that was very transcendental, Prabhupada's instructions were also very transcendental and also personal, like we see here. He was not just philosophy only, right? And not just a person who uh, made others feel that he was on a different platform and they were on a different platform. But he came down to their level also when needed. Right? He, as a kind of a parent, like with motherly love, he's offering prasadam to these young devotees when they're feeling it was too hot for chili. He's personally mixing the rice with banana and bringing them milk. So just like how a mother would care for her kids. So we see both the facets of Srila Prabhupada here, and it is so glorious. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody would like to share?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. So I
Mm.
really liked, what Bruce said at the end, that it was a soothing balm for the horrible city life. So it just makes me think of George Harrison's words, in the Krishna book, in the introduction, he says, the foreword, he says that everybody is looking for Krishna, they just don't know. Um, so I think even like with the materialist, like whenever we meet some people, they have an aura, and you can, if you're good at that, like sometimes you can feel the vibe of it, that this person is not good, and this person you just feel very peaceful. Your soul is at peace. So what to talk about the transcendentalist? When you meet any devotee, pure devotee, you just feel that that you don't want anything from them. It's just you just want to be there. You want the time to be stopped, and you just want to talk to them, and don't have any selfish motive, and you just want to hear them. So yeah, the Prabhupada had, we can't even imagine like what effect he would have.
Yes. Yeah. That's like I say, Lava Matra Sadhusanga Sarva Siddhi Hai. And yeah, like here we see different kinds of people, right, coming. Some was somewhere, like you said, like of course, George Harrison being a wonderful musician, he was attracted by Prabhupada. We see here other people who are more into writing, um, somebody who is not just not just sitting idle, but they're also working, employed, and all kinds of people are now slowly seeing the grace, seeing the spiritual vibes coming from Swamiji and being attracted to him. So yeah, that's how Krishna acts. He will act, and he will actually make sure that if we follow something sincerely with purity, then he will act in a way that he will send right candidates. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else would like to share anything? Okay. If no other thoughts, then we can conclude here for today. Thank you again for your kind association this morning. I look forward to your association again tomorrow. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Have a great day,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.